In a world where left is up and right is apparently wrong, do souls make sense of it all? Or at least have fun trying? Gear up, friends, for Chicken and the Dog.
Welcome to another episode of Chicken and the Dog. I am the dog, and with me, as always, is the guy that, despite not being good at picking teams to win, he is a great golfer, the Chicken. What up, dog?
Wow, you went 0 for 2 on that one, my friend.
Well, Chicken and the Dog as a whole, we didn't have a very good picking in week 4. I would say that we were off just a hair,
Yeah,
but it
just
happens.
by that much.
But anyway, look, week 4 didn't disappoint. There was some really good football this last weekend. And let's talk about the new AP that it really doesn't matter, top 25. Ohio State stayed at number 1, even though they were off. I don't disagree with that. And then Miami jumped 2 spots. They are number 2. You actually called that. That was a good call.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they would leave Penn State alone, but they didn't. Penn State dropped back to 3. LSU dropped back to 4. Georgia State at 5. The biggest jump is Oklahoma jumped 4 spots. That was a big pick. They're now number 7. Texas dropped a couple, even though they won, but it was Sam Houston. A&M climbed 1 to number 9. So A&M is now in single digits, which is fantastic. I think that's great. Very, very well deserved. They're playing great football over there in College Station. Indiana, wow. And we'll get into that game in a minute, man, but they thumped Illinois, the Fighting Curtises, and they jumped up 8 spots. Man, that was a really, really, really good game. Fun game to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Texas Tech beat Utah, so that jumped them up 5 spots. Georgia Tech climbed a couple. Alabama dropped 3 for not playing. Good job. I'm just playing. Vandy climbed a couple spots. They're in the top. They're above 20. But Illinois, man, and you and I talked about this offline, right? So Illinois, man, they dropped 14 spots from that loss. And it was a terrible loss. But wow, what a drop.
Yeah, and that's one of the things what we were talking about. And I'm not saying that it's wrong, but the trend seems to be so far this year, at least in the early goings, and it is early, so things are shaking out as to who's really going to be good, who's a surprise, and who's not all that great. But when these teams fall, so Clemson in week 1, South Carolina in week 3, and now Illinois in week 4, when they get beat, man, they rocket to the bottom. They're falling double-digit slots in this poll, not just a little bit, not what I would have assumed was the historical trend of, oh, they fell 5 or 6 spots. Man, they are tumbling like a stone on a hillside.
Yeah, man, that seems to be the trend this year for sure. But at the end of the day, man, it's just week 4, right? So any of these teams that are slipping, I believe they have an opportunity to climb back for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt.
All right, guys, now let's talk about what happened in the non-SEC top 25, the games that we predicted last week, man. And so they did not disappoint. Man, it was some great football. A number 17, Texas Tech, took on a number 16, Utah. And, man, it was close. It was back and forth at the, for the majority of this game until the fourth quarter. But Texas Tech ended up pulling it out 34-10. Great win for the Red Raiders.
It was, and you had a situation here where, a couple of guys could have gone either way for some awards this week, and no different here with Will Hammond, the backup quarterback for Texas Tech, as he comes in, throws for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns in this victory, big victory over Utah and the Utes at home.
Yeah, one of the games that we were actually together this weekend to watch, and I was really intrigued in this game because I thought it was going to be a good game, and it didn't disappoint. A number 21, Michigan, took on an unranked, at the time, 3-0 Nebraska, right? And boy, was it a back and forth game, man. I think both teams played very well, but Michigan pulled it out with a 30 to.
Yeah, great game again. Interesting to see if you look at the stat lines from the two quarterbacks. So Bryce Underwood, 12 of 22 for 105 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He runs the ball 8 times for 61 yards and a touchdown. Okay, so I mean, not overwhelmingly impressive. Now, the rest of the rushing attack from Michigan more than picks up any slack, right? Like they pounded the rock against the Cornhuskers on Saturday. But Dylan Raiola, 30 of 41, 308 yards, 3 touchdowns to 1 interception. But here's, in my opinion, the biggest difference maker. Michigan lived in the backfield. 7 carries for Dylan Raiola, which that could mean running for his life back there for negative 49 yards.
Yeah, that's still kind of, I mean, look, man, the running game is still important for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nebraska, who historically known to be able to run the ball down anybody's throat, as a team, 31 carries for 43 yards.
Wow.
Not a good look.
Not a good look at all. Look, man. But look, I will say this though. Michigan's been playing great football this year. Don't take anything away from them. So what does that tell us about Nebraska? I know that they were going into that game 3-0 and hasn't really played anyone yet until Michigan. But that tells me that Nebraska's on their way back. Matt Rule is doing a great job at that program. And I think good things to come for the Cornhuskers for sure. Another game that we thought could be interesting, and it was at first. Unranked Purdue took on a number 24 Notre Dame, and Notre Dame handled business. They beat them 56-30. Great win for Marcus Freeman. And I'm sure they're going to keep. Hopefully, they're going to keep winning and maybe crawl their way back into maybe a playoff spot.
This was a must win for the Irish. Yes, Purdue comes into this game at 2-1. Notre Dame came in at 0-2. But if Notre Dame would have left South Bend at 0-3 on Saturday, their season, for all intents and purposes, is over. So a needed victory to hang it on the Boilermakers. They did that. Good job, Irish, and let's see if you can continue to build from here. Jeremiah Love finally has that game that we've all been waiting for from him this year. 19 carries, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, you're right, man. Everybody's been waiting for him to have that big game, and maybe it just took him a little bit to get comfortable. I don't know, but that's going 0-2. Like I said, man, they have to claw their way back now, and it's not going to be uneasy. I think they were looking at their schedule. Their schedule is not. They don't have a whole lot of big games left to prove. I think they still have to play Arkansas. I think that's coming up. That'll be a big game, but don't sleep on Arkansas either. The next game that we want to talk about is Michigan State. They were 3-0, coming to fight into a 3-0, number 25 Southern Cal, the Fighting Prophylactics Big Ten champion, a Big Ten matchup. And it was a good game all the way to the end, man. But Southern Cal pulled it out, 45-31. But it was fun to watch. Kind of.
I didn't watch it. I don't pay attention to those people, so I don't care.
And then the last but not least, a number 9 Illinois, the Fighting Curtises, took on a number 19. Both teams were 3-0. Took on a number 19 Indiana in Indiana. And oh my, Indiana beat them 63-10. They made Illinois look like a Division II school score. And wow, is Indiana for real, for real? Maybe.
I felt like they had taken me behind the woodshed. We both called Illinois in this game. I really felt like Bielema had some stuff to prove in this and to push for some Big Ten standing. Indiana said, not so fast, and just completely flipped it around. Luke Altmaier, 14 of 22 for 146 yards and 1 touchdown. Illinois as a team as a team, 20 carries, 2 yards. I don't care if you're playing against your local Boy Scout troop. That won't get it done, pal. But on the flip side of that, the Hoosiers, man, tore it up. 49 carries as a team for 312 yards and 3 touchdowns. Tell me that you know how to play football without telling me you know how to play football. It'll also bring us to and this was a stretch this week. I'm going to tell you right now that these awards this week were a little difficult to come by because there was just so much debate all around. But your Gooch of the Week, only because we had never made that much of this guy before. In our world, he kind of came out of nowhere. He was not QB1 at Indiana last year, but he is QB1 for the Hoosiers this year, and I think everybody is happy about it. Fernando Mendoza, 267 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns.
Wow.
Let me tell you something. He lit it up for 5 touchdowns last week, too, albeit against different competition. But he goes in against a top 10 team at the time, Illinois Fighting Illini, and lights them up for another 5 scores. This guy's going to be somebody to watch.
Sure is. There is no doubt about that. Wow, man. What a great award. What a great winner of the Gooch, man. No doubt about that. We say this all the time. Don't come back.
That's right. Don't come back.
Don't come back to the Gooch.
And listen,
man.
I've got no reason to think that he will.
I don't either, man. I think this kid is good, and it's very exciting to watch this kid and watch Indiana. And look, man, I didn't think Indiana would be a contender for the Big Ten. The way they played against Illinois, I say they got it, man. They're in the mix. They're the upper mid-tier team that could give people fits. And it's gonna be a fun season to watch Indiana for sure. And that's not typically what we do, but it'll be fun to watch them. Now let's get into the SEC play. First and foremost, I don't have to talk about Georgia this week because we didn't play. But so Southeast Louisiana took on a number 3 LSU, and LSU beat them 56-10, just like we thought they would. They put up 28 points in the second quarter. This game was over. Man, what a great game. Good job, the Fighting Tigers.
That's right. Another good game.
This game was fun to watch, too. It was just a low scoring until the fourth quarter. But a struggling Florida Gators took on a number 4 Miami, and Miami proved to be the better team. They won 26-7. Great job.
To me, yeah, great job. Florida did show up. They played really, really well, took this deep into the fourth quarter, doing everything that they could to stay in this game, doing everything that they could to challenge Miami to falter. But Miami showed what they were made of, and they held on and put 13 more on in the fourth quarter to distance themselves and take this win away from the Gators.
Yeah, man. This is a game that we shouldn't have been talking about. It shouldn't have been something to be watching, but it ended up being a game to look at, man, because all eyes were on one person on the sidelines, right? And so a struggling Arch Manning and the number 8 Texas Longhorns took on Sam Houston, and they beat them 55, as we all thought that they should. But the one thing that I think you and I and the world will agree with is, yes, Arch looked more comfortable in this game, but I think what was really good about this was Arch was excited. He was jumping up and down. He was in it with his players. And maybe that's just something that just sparked over the week. And now that maybe we're going to see the Arch that the world thought we was going to see, I don't know.
Yeah, ends up being a good game for him. Again, we talked about the debate around the awards this past week. The question for Arch when it came to almost winning a Gooch, remember we kind of teased that a little bit. Could he ever end up getting down low enough to win a Gooch? Well, maybe if he had had another poor performance, then he would have set himself up for a future week. If they had beaten Sam Houston, but not quite that well, or maybe he hadn't played that well, but he finally began to show what we were all still expecting from him. Remember, that Gooch Award comes from somebody that you don't expect to perform very well, and Arch ends up doing what we finally expect him to do. 309 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns. Now, he doesn't run it all over the field, but he does run for 2 additional scores. So good job, Arch. You're finally putting up the stat line that we had expected to see from him.
Absolutely. This next game, boy, was it fun. It was another great one to watch, man. Number 22, Auburn, went to Norman, Oklahoma to take on a number 11, Oklahoma. Both teams were undefeated, and Oklahoma won, man, but it was a nail biter throughout the whole thing. They beat them 24-17. That game proved 2 things to me. One, or maybe 3. One, Oklahoma as a whole is a very, very good football game. Venables has turned that program around from last year. They look really good. 2, John Mateer, even though his stats aren't the greatest out there, they're not bad, but they're also playing, an SEC ranked team at the time. He looks good, man. I actually think that he is definitely in the mix for the Heisman Trophy. He's probably now the front runner. But number 2, the third thing that it showed me is Auburn's legit too. I don't think anybody should sleep on Auburn at all this year. I think they look that good.
Right. No, I think that the biggest thing that jumps out to me is the fact that both of these teams are highly competitive SEC caliber programs, but also, like our good friend Mario Anderson would say, John Mateer is for real, for real.
Absolutely, man. They look really good. Tulane took a trip to Oxford, Mississippi to take on number 13, Ole Miss. Ole Miss did what we thought they should do. Trinidad came in for Austin Simmons and lit it up. They beat them 45-10. Moves Ole Miss to now 4-0. Good job for the Rebels.
Yeah, a great game. Lane shows out, continues to exert himself in this conference. Big time win for the Rebs.
Yep. UNAB travels up north to Knoxville, Tennessee to take on number 15, the Fighting Hypos. And look, Tennessee does what Tennessee's been doing with the exception of Georgia. Well, actually, they still played great against Georgia. But they beat them 56-24. Great win for Heupel.
Great win for Heupel. Great win for the Vols. But I want to point this out for the Tennessee fans looking forward. Jalen Kitna, son of John Kitna, former NFL quarterback, 364 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns to 1 interception against the Vols on Saturday, albeit a losing effort. But Vol fan, you're supposed to beat UAB. You did. If you let SEC quarterbacks come in here and light up your board for that, it's going to be a rough afternoon.
Yeah, and we don't know how good this Kitna kid is, right? Is he, we don't know. I don't know. I haven't been following him or not, but is this a kid that other schools, SEC schools, Big Ten schools, are they going to be watching this kid throughout the season to pull him in next year? Don't know.
64 yards is hard to ignore. I don't care who you're throwing against.
Absolutely, man. Arkansas had to go to Memphis, take that short ride over to Memphis. And golly, I did not see this happening. I knew Memphis was good. I did. But I thought the Fighting Pittmans were going to I thought they were going to have their way with Memphis. I know that the line was pretty tight. I just thought it would I just thought it was going to be closer. But Memphis pulled out a win over the Fighting Pittmans, 32-31. Fun game to watch.
It was a fun game to watch. Again, kicking it back to our guy Mario. I know he had to be happy on Saturday. Brendan Lewis, the quarterback for the Memphis Tigers, 199 yards through the air, a touchdown and an interception. But he also ran the ball 16 times for 103 yards and 2 more scores. This guy was an emotional guy at the end. You could tell that he had put everything he had into this game to win. It was a huge game going in for Memphis, and the respect that they had for the Arkansas Razorbacks. They knew that this was going to be a tough hill to climb. They climbed it and beat Arkansas. Taylor Green, another big afternoon, 325 yards through the air, a touchdown, but 2 picks. That's what hurt the most, I think, in this ball game. He picks up another 53 yards on the ground. But overall, and I keep coming back to the rushing tagline or stat line this week, Arkansas, 32 carries for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns as a team. That's a good line, a really good line. Memphis, 41 carries, 290 yards, and 3 touchdowns on the ground for the Tigers. Couple of big difference makers there.
Oh, yeah. Northern Illinois went to Starkville, Mississippi to take on the Fighting Bulldogs, man. And look, Mississippi State won 38-10. Mississippi State is 4-0. Great comeback, man.
4-0. Now listen, Mississippi State for the first month of the season has not played the highest caliber of opponents as they will face as they enter in more to SEC play. However, 4 wins is 4 wins, Starkville. And if you've got that under your belt, all you need is 2 more. 2 more wins and you're going bowling this season.
Yeah.
Big year. 2025 is shaping up nicely for the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
I'm very happy for that program, man. Everything that they went through, man, I think it's pretty great to see them 4-0. There's no doubt about it. We've got 2 games left. A 2-1 South Carolina rolled into the other Columbia, Missouri, to take on a 3-0 Mizzou, number 23 Mizzou. Lenore Sellers was back, and I thought that was going to be a difference maker. And I be honest with you, and we can get in this game in depth, man, but I still say it was the difference maker. Mizzou pulled out the win 29-20. It was a fun game. It was a back and forth game to watch. But, Mizzou at the end of it won. Kirby Smart has said many a times that stadium in Columbia, Missouri is a very hard environment to play in. They played at night. Tough loss for South Carolina.
It was, and I'm going to come back to it again. Now, let me jump on this first. Lenore's does have a good night. 18 of 28. That's not the best percentage that you want from a guy that was at one point, and I'm going to use past tense, a Heisman candidate. He is moving up with a lot of NFL scouts and what they think is going to happen for him. 102 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. So a good stat line for Lenore's as a throwing quarterback. As a runner, 10 carries, which again, when you're a quarterback, that can mean running for your life. Minus 28 yards from Lenore Sellers. That's not something that we're used to seeing from a guy who had such great escapability last year. But here's the big thing. 10 carries on the stat line. The team had 22 carries. So only 12 additional carries out of the rest of your running back group for a total of -9. South Carolina's got to find a way to get the running game going. Now, as mentioned, and I don't want to take anything away from Missouri more than what they deserved yet. Evil coach. But I digress. The Tigers did exactly what the Tigers had to do. They dictated the tempo of this game. I think that's why you end up with such few carries running the football for South Carolina. The Tigers put South Carolina in a situation that they had to respond. Quite frankly, they didn't. They didn't respond like they needed to, especially at the end of the game late in the fourth. Had opportunities to win and just didn't pull it out. Oddly enough, we're talking about this game just after we talk about Mississippi State, and it looks like not the same way, but some attributes have shifted. Mississippi State's doing what they've got to do so far this year to be at 4-0, and South Carolina is not in these clutch moments pulling out the things that they need to in order to win these ball games.
Yeah, but you know what, though, man? If South Carolina can get their offensive line under control and improve that somehow, some way this season. I don't know if that's possible, but if they can, South Carolina, in my opinion, is still a very dangerous team. I mean, Lenore Sellers, I mean, you look, he had 300 yards in the air. That's a pretty, for coming back after getting knocked out last week, having an injury, and we didn't know if he was going to be ready or not. He came back and did pretty good. So, but he didn't have a whole lot of time to throw that ball, man. Your offensive line has got to improve. Give that young man some time in the pocket to stay in there, to be able to make plays happen, because that's what Lenore Sellers does. He makes things happen. But if he doesn't have time to even blink, it's just not good. So I think if South Carolina can fix their O-line, Lenore Sellers will continue to get better and better and better, and South Carolina will continue to be a very dangerous team.
I think for that to happen, and I say this as a lifelong Gamecock fan, you don't just have to fix your offensive line. You have to find a miracle on your offensive line. And here's why I say this. You have an opportunity this week for a bounce back game against Kentucky, but Kentucky has shown that they are not to be overlooked this year. You could overlook Kentucky last year. You can't just ignore them and take for granted that you're going to beat them. Now, the upside, Kentucky has to come to Columbia, South Carolina for this ball game. But let's talk about what happens after at LSU. Oklahoma, who is on a tear, comes to town. Alabama comes to town, and they're Alabama, for crying out loud. Then you have to go to Oxford. Then you have to go to College Station. Then you got Coastal and Clemson. So you're going to round out the year with 2 more wins there, likely. But by my count, my friend, you're staring down the barrel of 5-7.
Dude, that's a brutal schedule, man. I mean, that is a really, really brutal schedule.
5 heavy hitters in a row.
Wow. Not a good look.
No. It's going to be a rough year for Shane.
I don't know, man. I mean, I think Shane's got it in to pull out 1 or 2 of those. I do.
The challenge is, and we say this all the time, as great of a coach as Shane is, or any coach out there, they don't throw passes, they don't tuck the ball and run, and they don't block anybody. That's the big thing. And we come back to the offensive line several times in this conversation. Shane can tell them to block all they want. They can come up with all these schemes, zone, man-to-man, whatever that they want on that line. Shane's not blocking anybody because he's got to stand over on the sideline and tell these kids what to do. So as great of a coach as he is, he's still not a hat on a hat.
Oh, that's for sure. And that leaves us to 1 game left. And Georgia, this is a revenge game from last year. Georgia State rolls into Nashville, Tennessee to take on a number 23-0 Vanderbilt, the Fighting Pavias. And man, did what we thought Vandy should do. And we talked about this being a revenge game because last year, as good as Vandy was last year, and they were good. I mean, Vandy took out some people, man. They took out Alabama after 40 years of losing to them. But Georgia State beat them. Not so fast, my friend. Not this year. Vanderbilt beat them 70-21. They had their way with this team.
They did. Vanderbilt did this past week, the exact same thing that they did to South Carolina the week before, in that they dictated everything about this game. The tempo of this game, the attitude of this game. And we've said it so many times on various episodes, this is not your grandfather's Vanderbilt. These Commodores come to play with an SEC championship attitude. Now, do I think that they're going to be in Atlanta in December playing for the SEC? No, I don't. I think that that's still too far of a reach for this team right now. But this Vanderbilt school should be held this season. I'm going to say it right now. I know we're only 4 games in, but 4 games into the 2025 season, you better count these Vanderbilt Commodores up with any of the best in this conference, because that's the way that they're playing. That's going to bring us to, my friend, the first ever Dog of the Week who was once a Gooch. That's right, my friends. Brought to you by Breaking Chains Fitness. A fitness group that will take you at whatever level that you are, do everything that they can to build you up physically and spiritually, to take you to the best that you can be. Diego Pavia, possibly the first ever Muppet to win not just one, but 2 awards. Hey, Bert. Diego Pavia, 245 yards through the air, 1 touchdown. He ran the ball 9 times for another 86 yards and a score. And it's not just about the stat line for this young man. He is the heart and soul of this Vanderbilt offense. No, my friend, team. He is your leading Commodore, Diego.
Wow. Hey, look, man, how great is that to have the same guy get a Gooch and a Dawg? How fantastic is that? Now, and you mentioned that he's not only the leader of the offense, that he is a leader of the team. Well, he is older than their coach, Clark Lee. I'm just saying.
I think he's got kids older than Clark.
I think so too. And look, I don't want to take away from the game because Diego Pavia, hey Bert,
Theo Vaughn's future stepson, who knows?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, he's playing great football. There is no doubt about that. He's doing very well for the Commodores. But I do believe that you mentioned something to me this weekend. Correct me if I'm wrong. That they're trying. He's trying to get another year.
Well, what I heard was not that he was trying. What I heard was that his attorney, which, let's be honest, I don't know that the attorney is just doing this on a whim. Like he's sitting around one Friday afternoon going, yeah, maybe this would be a good idea. Now, it could be. Attorneys have to gin up fees somehow or another. But the attorney is already starting to put things in place to be able to sue the NCAA for an additional year of eligibility for Diego. Come on, dude. It's time to get a job. You can only graduate so many times.
Yeah, and, to be honest with you, if he keeps playing the way that he's playing, I mean, I wouldn't count out some type of NFL career out. I wouldn't count that out. Now, I'm not saying I don't think he's the next Tom Brady. I don't think he's going first round and gonna, start on an NFL team next year. I'm not saying that by any means. But he's not a bad player. I think he's a very great system style quarterback, a great leader on a team, and never know, somebody might pick him up as a backup and see what he could do.
He has the heartbeat of his team in the same way that a Brett Favre did, that a John Elway did, that a Tom Brady did. Now, we're not talking about physical attributes right here. We're not talking about football skill right here. We're talking about leadership right here. So from that standpoint, I get it. But here's what I would propose, if you will, as a guy I'm not against Diego, but I'm not for him either. Right? Like it's whatever for me. But okay, dude, go to the NFL and do all that you can do. Or if they're going to keep just playing the Diego game and here's another year, here's another year, here's another year, man, you better work your way through med school, kid, because I mean you'll have no excuses. I want to see doctor in front of Diego at some point.
There better be a PhD somewhere.
I MD, like if this dude can do this on a football field, then he ought to be out there curing cancer or something.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great? But look, man, all in all, a great weekend for college football. We're starting to get into some of the meat of the weeks, right? We're starting to see a lot of conference play, some good matchups, starting to see the shape of how things are going to go. It's not a definitive path yet, but we're seeing some things that are like, wow, this could be, it could be interesting. Is Vandy really for real? For real? Can South Carolina come back and do something? There's just a lot of movement going on. We like it. This is great. But week 5, guys, and we're going to talk about that in a couple of days, man. We'll get the forecast show out, what's coming up. There's some great football in week 5. I can't wait for it. the momentum just keeps building and building and building. And I'm just really excited about it. Look, man, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, subscribe to us on YouTube, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell someone. Just keep talking about chicken and the dog. Look, man, you got anything else?
Man, just one more thing. Jesus won, and I'm all crowed out.
Yeah, there we go. All right, guys, love you. Deuces.